Hey guys, what's up? It's Iflin here, and today we're going to be learning how to play Gauss in Warframe. Now, if you've been watching my Twitch stream for the past week or so, you'll know that a bunch of people have been jumping in the chat and asking me, Flynn, what is this frame? Well, this is Gauss, and he is definitely a contender for my favorite frame at the minute because of how fast he makes everything in this game. You can get from point A to point B insanely fast by using his Mac Rush ability. You can increase your fire rate, your attack speed, your reload speed, your holster speed by, just using your fourth ability and having it active. It lasts for 90 seconds, so there's no real reason to, not have it up. And then you can have an insane amount of damage reduction as well. Whenever you have your 2 active, that's implying you're using your first ability to just get around the map. So Gauss is an absolutely insane frame for just getting things done, and I've been using him a lot to play the likes of disruption missions and also do my Q villages and stuff like that, because he's such a fast frame. He's super tanky. He makes farming murmurs like way more efficient, and whenever your Q village does eventually spawn, because you've got that insane amount of damage reduction on your 2, well then, it's a lot easier to fight your Q village because he does deal a lot of damage, but Gauss just kind of shrugs it off because he has that amount of damage reduction, and yeah, he's a crazy good frame. So let's learn a little bit more about his kit and his abilities by going to the arsenal, going to the abilities tab, and first we're going to take a look at Mac Rush. So burst into a hyper sprint, bowling over enemies, charging the battery. Crashing into solid objects generates a powerful shockwave. Hold to rush continuously, right? So that's your first ability. This is just your big old sprint over here, and you can see in the right hand side of the screen that we've got that battery over there. So that battery is a very important part of Gauss's kit because the more battery you've got, then the more effective Gauss's abilities are going to be. So whenever you activate your second ability, let's just go ahead and read the description before I start explaining it. Your second ability, called Kinetic Plating, generate armor plating that converts a portion of absorbed kinetic damage, physical, heat, cold, and blast into energy. Also protects Gauss from being staggered or knocked down. Damage resistance is relative to the battery level. So your second ability, if we take a look at the ability screen again, you can see that it's got damage reduction between 20 and 100%, right? So 20% is the minimum amount of damage reduction you're going to have whenever you activate Gauss's second ability. But then if you go around and you charge the battery, right, you can get that all the way up to 100%. So it's worth it to keep on spamming Mac Rush to get your battery to max, so then you have that 100% damage reduction opposed to the 20% damage reduction if you're not using your first ability, right? So just use your first ability to rush around, get from point A to point B. Like I said, or maybe I didn't say this, but if you bash into a wall with your first ability, then you're going to let out like a miniature explosion, which is going to deal damage to enemies around you. Now, it's not going to be your main way of killing enemies. That's still definitely going to be your guns and your melee weapons and whatnot, but it's a nice bonus, and it's not going to hurt. It's not going to hurt you. It's going to hurt the enemies, right? So yeah, keep on using your 1 to have that battery full at all times so you can get the most out of Gauss's kit, right? But we're going to move on to the third ability now. So Thermal Sunder, siphon kinetic energy from the area, charging the battery and inflicting cold status on nearby enemies. Holding reverses the process, draining the battery and inflicting heat status on nearby enemies. So if we just tap the ability, it's going to let out a little cold ring, right? And then if we hold the ability, it drains the battery, as you can see on the right hand side, and it lets out fire. Now, if we combine the 2, just like if you combine the 2 in your modding section, it's going to make a little blast aura, right? So you got cold, you got fire, you got blast, right? So it's not an ability that I like to use a lot. You can make a build specifically around it by throwing on a bunch of power range, a nice amount of power duration, and a good amount of power strength if you're leveling Gauss, for example. So that would be your like main damage dealing ability. Like I said, not an ability that I like to use that much. I just go ahead and mod Gauss the way that I have him modded right now, because just the way that I have him modded right now is just a lot more fun. But if you want to level Gauss just that little bit faster, then building around this third ability right here might be the way to go. Like I said, it's just a mixture of power range, power strength, power duration, and then you're good to go. But moving on to Gauss's fourth ability, and in my opinion, his most fun ability, Redline. So it says push Gauss's battery beyond the red line, supercharging his abilities and setting fire rate, attack speed, reload speed, and holster rate into overdrive. When past the red line, bolts of arcing electricity dance periodically from Gauss, exploding en masse when the ability is deactivated. So if we go ahead and we activate our fourth ability, you can see that our battery gets charged up, and we have got a little percentage over there as well. And whenever we use Mac Rush, we can charge this percentage up and up and up and up and up until it gets to 100%. Whenever it's 100%, we're basically at 100% effectiveness, right? And you just got like a lot of excess battery there to play around with and do whatever with, right? So get that all the way up to 100%, and then of course have your fourth ability and your second ability active. With the build that I've got on right now, both the abilities have 90 seconds duration. So if you activate your second ability first and then your fourth ability, well then they're gonna run out at more or less the same time. Then you just have to reactivate them at the same time, right? So you can see that my battery on the right hand side is all the way up to 100%, and I can just do whatever I want now. You know, use my 1, use my 2, whatever. Use my 3. So there's the cooled. Here's the fire. It doesn't drain the battery because we're at 100% overcharge, and then I can combine the two and make my blast. Again, I need to go ahead and put down a little energy pad there. So there you go. So that's how that works. You get to 100% red line, then you can just spam your stuff. It's pretty much that simple. But like I said, you want to make sure that you activate your 2 and your 4 at more or less the same time, because the duration is the exact same. You got 91 seconds on your 2, 91 seconds on your 4. So that's how that there works. So yeah, the 4, crazy ability, makes your fire rate, your attack speed, everything super insane. It's crazy. It's crazy. Whenever you take a look at these abilities, you might think to yourself, oh, well, that probably needs a ton of power strength. It actually doesn't. So just to demonstrate to you guys, if we go to config B and I were to throw on the likes of a power strength mod, right? So let's see if we just type in strength, Umbral Intensify, we'll use that there one. You'll see that this increases my strength to 144%. But if we hover over redline, you'll see that the only stat on redline that is affected is the area damage right there. So that impact and puncture stat. So it doesn't actually increase your fire rate, your attack speed, your reload speed, or your holster speed by throwing on power strength. What does increase it though is power duration, right? So if we were to throw on the likes of Narrow-Minded, for example, there we go. You can see that now the stats are increased. What having power strength on does, it increases the amount of damage reduction you have at the minimum level. So the minimum amount of damage reduction that you're going to get is going to be affected by your power strength, and then of course the amount of damage that your abilities deal. So your cold and your heat damage on your thermal sunder, and the amount of explosion damage that your Mac Rush does as well. That's all going to be affected by power strength. Gauss is not a Warframe whose abilities are centered around killing the enemies. Your weapons are still going to be what you're going to use to kill the bad guys, right? So your Kuva Brahma, your Tomb Finger, your Krunin, those are the 3 weapons that I like to use with Gauss. Those are going to be what you use to kill enemies. You're not going to be using that explosion damage from Mac Rush. You're not going to be using the cold and the heat damage from Thermal Sunder. You're not going to be using the arcing electricity from your 4. Those are just to complement the kit. What you should be focusing on is throwing on as much duration as possible to make the most out of the fire rate buff, the attack speed buff, the reload speed buff, the holster speed, all that there good stuff. And then also throwing on other like pieces of utility to what will make the quality of life a little bit better, right? So if we take a look at my config A here, you'll see that I have max duration on. So I've got myself to 306% duration by throwing on Prime Continuity, Constitution, Narrow-Minded, and Augur Message. That's all the duration mods that I can throw on, and then the rest is entirely up to me, right? So I've got Adaptation on here to get even more damage resistance versus certain damage types, which makes me incredibly tanky. I've got Flow on here. You could probably take Flow off, honestly, because of the amount of energy you're going to be getting back. So, you know, this can be like a flex slot for you. You've got Streamline on here as well. Again, You don't necessarily need Streamline because of the amount of energy you can regen, not only with Gauss, but with the likes of Energizing Dash or Energy Pads or whatever. So you can take that there off. And then you've got Vitality on here. Vitality is just great because it's a defensive mod. You got these 2 flex slots here, and then I've went ahead and thrown on Rush because that's going to make Mac Rush just that little bit better as well. So you've got 2 flex slots, max duration, 1 defensive mod, this here Exo slot here. You can throw whatever you want on this Exo slot. And then I've got my aura mod on here, which is cruiser projection. You might want to throw on the sprint boost. You might want to throw on something that is going to increase your melee damage. It's entirely up to you what you want to use in your aura slot. It really doesn't matter. Then for my arcanes, I've got velocity and strike on here just to increase the fire rate of my secondaries and the attack speed of my melees even further, just to make it that little bit more insane. So these last 2 slots, entirely up to you. I could Forma again and throw on the likes of Prime Flow if I really wanted to. You could throw on the likes of Mobilize, so your bullet jumps are faster, so you can speedrun missions more. You could even throw on something wacky like Peculiar Growth if you really wanted to, because Gauss, like, as long as you have these mods on Gauss is going to be ridiculous. He's going to be insane, and whatever you want to throw on here is going to benefit you in some way, shape, or form. It really doesn't matter. Hunter Adrenaline, if you're really anxious about not having your energy, you can throw that there on, so as you take damage, then you're going to get more energy back, that there type of thing. I wouldn't recommend throwing a lot of power strength in because, like I said, it's just going to increase the minimum amount of damage reduction you get on your 2. So, you know, all you have to be doing at that point is just spamming Mac Rush to get yourself up to 100%, you know? Like, as long as your battery is fully charged, you're going to have that 100% damage reduction. So you should be good to go in that regard. But, yeah, I threw on Flow. I'm probably going to Forma at some point and put on Prime Flow. It just depends whenever I'm not using Gauss, you know, so I could Forma him back down to level 0, you know, and then level him up again. But you could throw on some set mods if you really wanted to. It's entirely up to you what you do here. But I like having my Flow and my Streamline on. Streamline just so my abilities are that little bit more efficient, right? So being able to just cast my 2 and my 4 more often, and of course my 1 as well, is really nice. So I would recommend keeping Streamline on, but like I said, it's entirely up to you. It's you know, personal preference really, and then Flow just because having that extra energy is nice. So that should really be it for how to play Gauss. The only other things that I can really recommend to you guys is weapon sets, like I said. So I've got my Kuva Brahma here. Because you are knockdown immune, it makes the Kuva Brahma like more insane than it needs to be, and I wouldn't be surprised if they nerf it. So let's just go ahead, have my 2 and my 4 active, you know, and then we'll just go ahead, jump on in, and then you can just keep on spamming the Kuva Brahma into the grind to kill all the bad guys like so. You can see that we're not invincible here, and these are level 100 enemies, I think. Yeah, so they die pretty quickly. If you're hitting them directly as well, they're gonna take even more damage, so they don't last that long, honestly. And if you're playing the likes of, I don't know, like your Kuva missions or something to kill your Kuva Lich or whatever, the enemies are going to be even weaker than those enemies, and they're going to die even faster because you're going to be going up against Lancers and Butchers who have so much less effective health than those guys as well. So got my Tomb Finger as well. Tomb Finger's great because you've got Radiation and Corrosive on here, which is good versus your Kuva Liches, or you can build full-on Radiation if you really wanted to. It's down to you. This is the build that I'm running for that. I've got Pack Seeker on here as well because I like it whenever I land a headshot and those little balls come out and seek out other enemies. Just means I can kill a lot more enemies in a shorter period of time. Here's the build for the Kuva Brahma. Can't remember if I showed that. Ammo Drum you can swap out for like Ammo Mutation or something. It's entirely up to you. I don't know why I have that on. And then my Cronin Prime, this is the build that I've got for that. You want to replace the Riven on here for Organ Shatter, and then Prime Reach, you can replace this for Weeping Wounds, or what's the other mod that I'm forgetting right now? Weeping Wounds or a Prime Smite mod or something along those lines. I like Prime Reach just because of the utility. So, you know, because the enemies they have less effective health, like the Lancers and the Butchers and whatnot, having Prime Reach on is pretty nice. And like you're very rarely going to come up against the likes of Heavy Gunners and Bombards and stuff like that. Like they don't spawn enough to be modding for super insane DPS builds, I guess you could say, all the time. It's entirely up to you what you want to do though. So I survive just fine with this here build. Like I said, replace this Riven for Organ Shatter, and then you should be good to go. This here one just gives me crit chance and critical damage. Negative damage to infested. Pretty nutty Riven. And let's just do one last test versus these guys, right? Because why not? Why not? Let's get some energy here. Bring out my Tomb Finger, because that's what I want to use. You can see that shreds enemies. Krillin shreds enemies. Brahma shreds enemies. Gauss just makes everything insane, man. He's a frame worth picking up. You get him from the disruption missions, do the one in Sedna, Rotation C, and that's pretty much it. Gauss is insane. Pick him up. If you don't have him, you're doing yourself a disservice. Go get him. Stop watching this video. Go get him. Go get him now. Thank you guys for watching. Like the video if you liked it. Subscribe for more Warframe content, and I'll see you guys in the next one.